The LG Escape 2 is a budget smartphone with a curved and compact design. How well does it stack up next to the growingly fierce competition? This is Bailey Stein with Android Authority, and this is my full review of the LG Escape 2. On the outside, the Escape 2 displays a design that we've yet to see on other low-end offerings. LG is making a big deal out of the phone's curve, and rightfully so. Although it is more so on the subtle side while holding the phone, it's still a very respectable component of the phone's satisfying visuals. The matte plastic rear's attempt to emulate brushed aluminum can be primarily described as hopeful, and the parting lines found around the headphone and micro USB ports sadly serve as reminders of the Escape 2's price tag. I also noticed that the back scratches easily, as my unit had several imperfections after just 3 days of normal use. That's not to say that the Escape 2 feels cheap in the hand, however. In fact, while the Escape 2 is on the thicker side at 9.9mm, it is surprisingly light at 119 grams. The phone's size lends to comfortable one-handed use, and the rear-facing buttons are a nice departure from the norm. The buttons have good tactile feedback and are positioned perfectly for quick access with an index finger. There is an LG logo as well as some carrier branding on the back of the phone, as well as an additional LG logo on the chin of the device. On the top, there's a measly 1MP front-facing camera to the right of the earpiece. The 4.7-inch 720p display looks great with good sunlight readability. Viewing angles are pretty good as well, although you may notice a slight drop in brightness. I think 720p was a wise choice considering the Escape 2's size, processor, and battery capacity. On the downside, the display glass is a fingerprint magnet. Despite my best efforts to keep it clean, the Escape 2 managed to collect fingerprints much faster than any device that I've recently used. Powered by the quad-core 64-bit Qualcomm Snapdragon 410, collect at 1.2 GHz, the LG Escape 2 does perform on the slower side. I didn't have any major issues with performance, but the phone certainly feels slower than higher-end devices. The bigger problem for me was actually the 1GB of RAM. It's quite simply not enough for what most people use their smartphones for. For example, just opening a web page can cause the launcher to be removed from memory, which causes a delay when trying to go back home. If you do like to listen to music and do other things at the same time, you're pretty much out of luck, as your music will stop as soon as the phone runs out of memory. Coupled with the Adreno 306 GPU, the Escape 2 is able to play most games, although you'll definitely notice some dropped frames and slow load times in some of the more resource-intensive games. When it comes to connectivity, the LG Escape 2 has everything you'd expect: 802.11n Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth 4.0, and 4G LTE. Unlike most budget smartphones, however, the Escape 2 includes support for NFC. The rear speaker on the Escape 2 is pretty loud, although it also sounds heavily distorted. LG's curved design helps make the speaker less prone to further distortion when set on a table, however, although nothing really tops front-facing speakers. A user-replaceable 2100 mAh battery can be accessed by lifting off the back cover. 2100 mAh is relatively small compared to other smartphones, and the actual battery life reflects that. I started my day at 7 AM with brightness set to 75% and Wi-Fi on, and was able to get the phone to last until about 7 PM with 3 hours of screen on time. Sure, that's better than what I had expected from the 2100 mAh battery, but it still may not be enough for some users. Thankfully, you can always swap out the battery if needed. The 8MP rear camera with flash on the Escape 2 captured some decent looking images. Color reproduction was fairly good, but the photos seemed to lack detail and sharpness. It can also take a few tries to get an object in focus, which may frustrate some users. LG did include a quick launch feature which allows you to hold down the volume down key to quickly open the camera app. The camera app provides little control overall, but does have an easy to use interface. The Escape 2 runs LG's custom skin over Android 5.1.1 Lollipop. The phone does run Android 5.0 out of the box, but an OTA update is available. Many aspects of LG's skin make a lot of sense. The not code unlocked feature, the pull down to view time gesture, flip to silence gestures, hold volume buttons for quick launch, customizable quick toggles, a clear all apps button, and navigation bar settings are all nice additions. The LG keyboard, launcher, and lock screen are all also pretty good, and I didn't feel the need to replace them out of the box. There were a couple of minor annoyances that I noticed as well, including the inability to customize the lock screen apps and inability to change the night brightness feature hours. The biggest negative point for me though was the amount of bloatware that came pre-installed on the phone. I counted over 25 individual third-party apps, many of them coming from AT&T. You can't uninstall these apps either, which is very disappointing. Sure, you can disable them, but they're still going to use up space on the phone. The LG Escape 2 can be purchased from AT&T in silver for $179 off contract or 99 cents on contract. There are also a few installment plans available starting at $6 per month for 30 months. It does include 8GB of internal storage, but only about 2.8GB is usable out of the box. Luckily, there is a microSD card expansion slot which supports up to 32GB. Although the LG Escape 2 may look like a good deal on the surface, it's probably not the best option. The positives include a nice design, great display, and a good software experience. On the other hand, the performance could be better, the speaker is heavily distorted, and the battery may not last through a full day of use for some users. With options like the $200 Asus Zenfone 2 and upcoming Moto G refresh, I can't recommend this phone to the average user. Unless you've already decided that your next budget smartphone must have a curved and/or compact design, you should really look elsewhere. Thank you for watching this video, and please make sure to give it a thumbs up below if you enjoyed it. Also, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content, and feel free to leave a comment below. Finally, be sure to visit the Android Authority website for additional coverage, as we are your source for all things Android.